Look, these pieces of stone, so-called architraves, is a part of the architecture. Such a piece, most often monolithic, which means one piece of stone used to belong on top of columns, capitals. This was actually the connection between two columns, which allowed them for further rooftop constructions on top. That's why the capitals always played a very important role. Because if you look to the capitals, these ones you see are Roman style Corinthian. If you look to the diameter on the bottom and compare with the diameter on the top, is much bigger. So this allowed to put such an architrave on top, and this used to be a colonnade surrounding, come a bit closer, a huge square. Actually there was two squares. Look, this is where we are at the moment. We are going to follow this path to see the Tetrapylon, from where we are going to move into the Temple of Aphrodite, the main temple of the city. And then we are going to follow this way out to where the stadium is. And then you do the way back this way to come back here on your own after I finish the guiding. So I'm not going to take this route because this takes too long. And I mean, you don't miss much. It would be a walk with up and go down hills. We would see a theater, much smaller, but the same architecture like tomorrow in Ephesus. And such a bathhouse we are going to see in Ephesus as well. That's why I prefer to do the short tour. And so we are not going to see this area, but this used to be huge squares. Look, these dots surrounding the square, you see these little dots, they show the columns. Around squares, a very typical architecture was having colonnades. The Greeks used to call it stoa. Later the Romans used to call such a construction portico. It was actually giving protection against rain in winter and sun in the summer, of course. And so such a square was completely surrounded with a colonnade, which means there was columns like that on which there was architraves, but this has all collapsed. So they have collected here some of them which are in pretty good condition. Not all of them, but look, so you know, sometimes people are asking, how does it come that the head of a statue, for example, is off? Most often people think that this was disrespectful later cultures, but that's not true. It might happen, but much more it is if you look, the nose is damaged. Almost all of the noses and faces are damaged, except that these ones here, for example, not that much. Or here, you see that? You know why? If an earthquake happens and such a construction collapse, if this architrave, this one fell onto the front, this obviously fell onto the back of it. So it is in good condition. And if you see a torso of a statue without the head, it's just because in some cases we know that statues' heads were changed when it was a person who was honored with a statue, he died, they changed the head. Another reason, and this is actually the main reason, if a statue falls off in an earthquake, the throat, ladies and gentlemen, is a weak spot. So the first thing which breaks off is the head. His fingers, the nose gets damaged, the toes get damaged, you know, and this is actually the reason. So all of these beautiful faces in which they have the eyes, holes in the eyes, for colored stone. And this we know was colored, but the colors faded out. We don't see them anymore. We know, for example, temples were colored, very colorful, painted very colorful as well. But all these colors, of course, they all faded out. We don't see that anymore. All right, let's pass this fountain on the left-hand side. Public fountains. Every city used to have public fountains, public bathhouses, because usually, let's say, regular people used to live in homes without water supply. And so there was public fountains where they used to take their daily need for fresh water, and they went in bathhouses to clean themselves. Here we can see is a fountain. We can recognize a narrow basin over there. It used to be a small construction surrounding these columns. And if you look at them, you can see that this one, for example, looks different than the one further behind. There in the background, we see the Ionian style capitals, but on top of these ones, we see the Corinthian style. So this is a very typical mixture because this got constructed from rubble stone. Spoil material from collapsed buildings got recycled. They reused material. It saved time and money. And when they did this, they didn't care much about the look like. That's why we don't see a unity, why the capitals are different, and the design of the columns as well, because this is late antique, 6th century AD is the latest period, and this is when people started to leave these kind of cities, when they are about to get abundant. They didn't make much money anymore, so they reused material instead of bringing new. All right.